We? Great. How many of us know Tina Turner? So, with the title of this session, I felt like, what have men got to do? Got to do with it? What have men? Okay, so your Tina Turner is a bit stale. But allow me to welcome my amazing panel. And I will start with Agnes Binagwaho, who is the Vice Chancellor, University of Global Health Equity from Rwanda. A bit more energy than that, you guys. Woo! And our song. Okay, and the next panelist is Benga Oyebode. I pray I have not murdered your name. Who is the chairman, Aluko Oyebode, and board member of the African Philanthropy Forum. And last but not least is Emery Rubagenga, who is the CEO, Ishango Investments Limited. And thank you so much. The team is on point. Eh? They're awake. So, what have men got to do with it? And I will start with Agnes and come down the row. Please tell us a bit more about yourself and tell us, what have men got to do with it?
Okay. So, I'm Agnes Binagwaho. As you can see, a woman. And I'm going to retire to enjoy life and speak and advocate more for gender, for equity at large, globally, here in Africa and beyond. So I'm going to leave my position as Vice Chancellor and continue to teach and do research and do more advocacy. So that's what I'm doing now. Above that, I'm a pediatrician, and I came in the gender fight a long time ago when I was a student in Belgium. I had two problems. I was a woman and I was black. So I fight for both equity. So the issue is equity. Yeah. When you have equity at the core of what you do, you have to fight for gender equity. So this is who I am, what I'm doing, and very happy to be with all of you. Thank you.
And in one sentence, Agnes, what have men got to do with it? With closing the gender gap? Yes.
Absolutely. What men have to do a lot is because they are benefiting even when they are not doing. So they are the men who are fighting for the status quo, and 100% of men who are benefiting of it. Yeah. So they have a lot to do. They have to stand with us to say, no, enough is enough. We need to go for gender equity. Yeah. They should even be in front of us if they are for equity. So they have a lot to do with it.
They have a lot to do with it. Thank you so much. Please go ahead. Sorry, Benga. Sorry, I was trying to find your name. Go ahead, Benga. No, yes.
It's the only Nigerian name that's not pronounced as it's
I know, that's what I was fumbling about. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, my name is Benga Oyebode. I sit on the APF board. Very passionate about philanthropy. I like education, which is where I spend a lot of my time as chair of Teach for All. Look, what do men have to do with it?
Yes.
Everything. Everything, and not as a cliche. Mm-hmm. It's more like, what do we all have to do with it? Yes. So it's not about male financial champions. It's about champions, period. Yeah. And the fact that across the world we see the gaps. We like the cliches of diversity, equity, and inclusion, but the reality is that most of us are not walking the talk. And I think it's important that we focus across the different areas. It was funny listening this morning to the corporate leaders, and I think You know, somebody made a comment around positions. It's very unusual to find a people and culture head or an HR head that's not a woman. And that's the way that male CEOs are wired. They think that women can only do good when they are HR heads. And these are the kind of stereotypes that all of us need to take a look at and change.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. Emery, over to you. What have men got to do with it? But tell us a bit about yourself.
Thank you very much, Jacqueline. It's a pleasure to be here and have a conversation about feminism and how women need to be empowered on the continent. But I just wanted us to reflect at the very beginning of our lives as men, or even women. The most important person in your life when everything starts is your mother. So let's go back to the beginning. Let's go back and remember, how did we start our life? Who was there to take care of you? Who was there to nurture you? As a man, we have everything. We have responsibility. We have the responsibility of going back and thinking. Personally, I was telling a friend in the room that my best friend was my grandmother. She taught me so many things, much better than every London Business School or any international gathering of CEOs that I have attended. I've been so close to her. She has given me the wisdom that is much relevant than every book that I read, because it was coming from the heart. So I believe we are equal. It's not that about demonstrating. It's not about screaming everywhere that there is a problem. There is a problem, okay? And I don't want to deny it. There is a lot of efforts and things are moving in the right direction in many parts of this continent, including here. Everyone was so amazed to hear about how many women we have in parliament here. Everyone is talking about the 50-50 parity in government. But we forget to say that many CEOs in this country are women. The biggest bank, the CEO is a woman. The Rwandair that many of you have used to come here, the CEO is a woman. The development bank, the CEO is a woman. Rwanda Development Board, the CEO is a woman. So we can go on and on. And these are competent people. They are not just women. They haven't been selected because they are women. And we have to change the debate. And we are talking about equal, the brain of a woman and the brain of a man. I'm not a specialist. Dr. Agnes Binagwa will tell us because she's a doctor.
Yes.
But I believe women and men can learn, can be taught things, and can be developed equally. So my point here is, look, let's focus on how to do it. How can we go back to the way we were wired when we came on earth, seeing the most important person as your mother? What changed during the process? What has changed?
What has changed? Yep.
This is where we need to put the focus, and then the woman will then get her position, initial position that she had when I was born.
Okay. So thank you all for your beginning comments. And what I want to ask us is, can we give practical examples to the room? How do we mobilize, energize male champions? And I'd like us to give examples from our initiatives, in our businesses, in the work that we have done in universities and other spaces that we're in. How practically have you used male champions in the initiatives around closing gender gaps wherever you are? Emery, I'd like to start with you and then go towards Agnes. So how have you, in particular, used male champions?
Sure, thank you. I mentioned I'm a businessman, so that's what I do for a living. But I also chair the board of a microfinance that started as an NGO in the beginning, straight after the war and the genocide against Tutsis in 1995. today we empower lots of young people and lots of female entrepreneurs. The way we structured it in our microfinance is to make it slightly easier. By the regulation, we can't just have regulation specifically for women. It's hard. But we make sure that in terms of financial literacy, they get specific training that are closer to their home. Many of them have difficulties to necessarily come to our headquarters. So we go towards their premises, and we make sure that we keep a relationship that is individualized. And to be frank, we have seen a lot of empowerment, especially in the women, because first of all, they pay back much better than men by statistics. This is not only in our microfinance, but in many microfinances. Once they get financial literacy classes, they attend. Many male don't. So we have pushed a lot the financial literacy part to empower them and educate them and follow them up in how they can grow their business.
Okay. Thank you so much, Emery. Benga, tell us your story. How have you used male champions?
Look, in most of the businesses that...
Oh, your mic, yes.
In most of the businesses that I'm involved in, particularly spent the last 40 years building a law firm in Nigeria. Even so, when I look back 45 years ago, graduating from university in Nigeria, half of my graduating class were women. Easily 40% of my partnership today, there are 18 partners in the firm, are women. We have 100 lawyers, about 50% are women. Yeah. And I stepped down as chair of the firm. A woman took over from me to chair the firm. I think it's important that we identify. So when we say male champions, yes, it's really about recognizing that the people around you, and it's not about tokenism, it's about effectiveness, it's about capability, it's about capacity, it's about the ability to deliver results. Yep. So I think that that's important. In some of the investments that I've made, it's also about what are the needs of women in our societies. Look, the retail business, and you don't have to be a ShopRite to be a retail business. Yeah. The retail business in Nigeria, the market women who do retail business, lead. They are the entrepreneurs. Farming communities across the continent essentially are the women. They do all the work. Some of the investments that I think were most appropriate were, how do we deliver for these women in such a way that they are able to keep the profits that they make from business? So I like fintech investments that essentially are able to capture on a woman's cell phone the money that she makes from trading in such a way that she doesn't put it under her bed or under her pillow for her husband to take and go off and drink with it overnight. Yeah. So fintech investments, telecom investments that deliver a wallet on a phone that actually, in the world where technology, in the farthest villages that you can think of, cell phone service exists. So I think that it's important to do that. Also, I think it's important to encourage, to mentor. And I think for me that's actually worth its weight in gold. Your ability to give of your time, to speak at gatherings where there are young people who want to listen, who actually want to benefit from the experience. So my view, those kind of things are the things that not necessarily financial champions, but champions need to pay attention to, need to focus on, and need to give of their time consistently.
Okay. Thank you so much. Agnes, what are your thoughts, and how have you used male champions in your initiatives?
I think everything starts with education.
Yeah.
So from kindergarten, we need to give the sense to the kids and to the parents of the kids that boys and girls are equal, that every child is different. The most important for parents is to respond to the need of their children, but to help them to develop at their full potential, not restrain some because they are girls and promote or over-promote others because they are boys. So this is true education. But also, we are all citizens, and we are all voting. Could we push our parliamentarians to pass laws that are against gender discriminations? Because this is very important. We want women to have 100% efficiency and work out of home without decreasing their duty inside the home. So this doesn't work. We need to fight that. So having debate like this, helping us supporting through groups, not only groups of women, have men in the group, so we exchange ideas deeply. So we need to really change and go for all the cultural bias we have all been educated with, and change what is in corporate, in public sector, etc. And recognize that we have an extra duty, even being pregnant, my goodness. We are not supported at all. So we should be supported like if we are mentoring Einstein. This is what I'm saying. Every woman that is pregnant, she's mentoring a future Einstein. So give her consideration and don't ask her to overwork because she's pregnant and she went for equity and she has to perform the same way. No. Yeah. Now, create at the business level a way to accommodate when she has a child sick. For example, we can have something at work that, and we can have that at all levels, so that the burden to be a woman that we have now disappear. Yeah. Yeah. And the child is the child of the society, of the family, of everybody.
Thank you so much. And I'm soon bringing it to the audience, but one question I will ask before we go, and I think the framers of this conversation were very particular, and I know, Benga, you've been saying not necessarily financial, but that's where we want to go, because it has power, it enables agency, it moves things, money moves things. So I do want to ask and press the point, what can male financial champions do in your view? And Benga, I'll start with you, come to Emery, and with Agnes, and then we'll come to the floor.
Look, it's that same conversation that we have. One key thing that we can do is around financial inclusion. I think that's particularly important. You know, we live on a continent where if there's one good thing that's happened over the last 20 years, I think technology is able to be a leveler. And so financial inclusion for me is that way in which all of us, and again, I'm sorry, whether male or female, need to deliver. And not necessarily deliver for those of us sitting in this room, deliver at the bottom of the pyramid for the people who need it the most. And so I see a situation where, look, it's not one of my classic things about philanthropy, for instance, in an environment like mine in Nigeria, where you know, we go off to, we would say to an oligarch, why don't you give to education? He says, I've built a school. Except only 500 students are in that school. But if you give to a bigger cause, actually you're impacting 500,000. Same amount of money, but impact is significantly more. I think the conundrum for us is our ability to convince more people to see bigger than just their communities, their ability to impact within their local communities, and join hands with organizations, philanthropies, that have a goal that's continent-wide, for instance. So male financial champions, my advice to them is, let's, look, it's one of the things that's great about APF. And I heard yesterday about how in African languages we don't have the word philanthropy. Nothing could be further from the truth. Yeah. I spoke Yoruba before I spoke English. In Yoruba, philanthropy is about community. Atunlishe is the people who make our community better. The motto for Lagos, the Lagos government says, the growth of Lagos is for all of us. What that means is that it's communal effort. Yes. And therefore, within that effort is our ability to push the agenda of growth, of sustainability, of inclusion, of equity. All of those things that we talk about, all of us must be champions of that cause.
Okay, thank you. Emery. Emery, what do you think?
I think
what is the role of male financial champions?
The role is to get our hands dirty in the doing. Mm-hmm. I'm not a big fan of the talking. I'm a businessman, so I eat what I kill. And I believe even the philanthropy world, we have on one end the NGO concept of philanthropy, but we also have the private sector. The biggest philanthropists we have in Africa, and I wish and I hope we have more Masiyiwa, more Dangotes, and more billionaires in this continent. And how are we, and more...
and more Emerys.
More Emerys, exactly.
Yes. So the idea, how do we create more Dangotes and the like? So today we have, I think, 25 maximum billionaires on this continent. All of them are male. 3 of them are black. How do we change that? We will be repeating ourselves again. It is about education, but not this education we had in the 19th or the 20th century. I'm talking about entrepreneurship education. That's where the key and the magic is. And this is not a role of a male, it's a role of everyone here in the room. I heard everyone speak here. We have tremendous amount of intelligent people. How many do you mentor? How many of these young people do you help, give a hand to in terms of coaching and telling them that they can make it and they can be better and bigger than you? If we don't do that, if we don't have 10 or 20 people, each of us here in the room, male and female, if we don't do that, in 100 years we will still have maybe 30 or 40 billionaires on the continent. And again, those are the people who are giving. The more you have, technically the more you could be given. So I think we need to create more wealth on this continent by educating our youth. And I'll finish with just a small figure that is so compelling. Do you know the average age in Germany? It's 49.5. The average age in Niger, someone was talking about Niger earlier, it's 15. So these figures showing us, and then the population of Africa in 8 years is going to be bigger than India and China combined. So it's no longer a problem of male and female only. It's also about the youth, the education of all these young people. Of course, female needs a special attention, but we need to be focusing on creating the future Masiyiwa, Dangote, and the like.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Agnes, what are your thoughts?
Totally agree with my 2 companions here. However, I will focus on create those categories in women, because men will be there anyway. Mm-hmm. They have the money already, so we should stop it.
Yeah.
Let's identify girls and women and promote them.
So are you saying it is the role of the male financial champions to do
Yes,
that?
they have the money.
Okay.
Huh?
Yes.
So who have the money have the power.
Yeah.
We know that. So let's incentivize them in a way or another, because it's the future of the continent. Among those, we are the youngest population, like Emery said, it's true. But among them, we have 52% of girls. So let's go for the majority. Second, we all know that when we promote a woman, we promote a family. When we promote male, it depends. Sometimes we promote the bar that is nearby the road. So we know where we have to go.
Yes, yes, yes. Thank you so much, Agnes. So, bringing it to us, I have, I think, time to take, oops, was that me? 3 questions, and I would like to do far left, middle, far right. I saw your hand, Titi. So can the mic go all the way there? As I'm looking here, okay, I've seen you, thank you. And anyone over? I've seen you. Okay. So our 3 very brief questions. Just tell us your name, ask your question, or make your contribution. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jackie, and thank you to the panelists. My name is Titi Midzi with Agent Action Fund Africa. Looking at the landscape right now in terms of sexual and gender-based violence, we see that it is on the increase, and we know that the negative norms, the retrogressive norms, they're basically taking charge, and this is really impacting women. How can we work with the male change agents to ensure that we shift the narrative, we change the norms, we reduce the cases of gender-based violence, but most importantly, we empower women and girls to be financially literate, to have businesses, to have economic empowerment so that they can rescue themselves from these situations. Yes, we do have programs, but we practically need to see how we can work with male change agents for us to see change that is longer term and sustainable. Thank you.
Thank you so much. The second hand was here in the middle. You need to raise your hand again because he might not have seen it. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Raisa Kinko from the African Leadership University. And one of the panelists said something that actually got to me. So I'm a girl rights activist. And you said something about the youth of Africa and about the African population consisting mostly of young people. And that just reminded me. As a teenager, there were a lot of conferences like this that would hold, but we wouldn't have opportunities to attend these conferences and events and get to learn from people firsthand. So what are we doing to make sure that this population that is going to lead the continent gets access to these spaces and gets to be able to contribute? Because then we're not just going to grow up and then all of this will be thrown in our faces and then this is it, you have to solve it. So how do we get here so that we start learning, and by the time we're reaching these positions, we're already groomed with the skills necessary in order to contribute to the growth? There's so many young people out there, but they have no idea that this is going on or how to access it. But then even if they want to, there's no one to help them get there.
Okay. Thank you so much. And the final question over here. Thank you.
Hi, my beautiful panelists.
Hello.
My name is Leah Kilenga Bay, CEO and founder of Africa Sickle Cell Organization, and a proud product of University of Global Health Equity. And I'm happy, I'm happy to see Professor here. And my question is targeted to Professor because, let me flip it. With regards to the bridging the gender gap, and most conversations that we have in Africa is how do we empower women and girls, because women are disproportionately affected by inequities, health and gender inequities. However, how do we ensure that men are also in perspective to prevent any unintended consequences of leaving our male allies and our male males and boys behind, especially in pockets of society, in the poorest billion, where they also suffer these inequities. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So I guess in a sense, Agnes, you'll answer that. Benga, you'll answer Tsitsi's, and you will answer the question on youth. Is that okay? So Agnes, over to you.
So how do we frame the fight for gender equity among the overall fight for equity? Is it so? I think you cannot. You have to start the fight against inequities to the fight to promote the vulnerable. And we know that among the vulnerable woman is the most vulnerable. So it has to have a gender dimension. I think a vulnerable needs support, whatever gender. But the woman who is vulnerable will need more support. So this is how I will frame it. Special attention, but attention for all. And a direct attention according to needs. When you fight for social justice, don't forget to have a special focus also on gender equity. Say that it's not only to promote things like they were before. We need to go for a new social order.
Thank you. Thank you, Agnes. Benga.
Look, the gender-based violence conundrum is one that I typically like to put in some perspective. Let me use Nigeria as an example. So population growth in Nigeria is 3% flat year on year. We have 22,000 babies every day. We add 6 million people to population. We are going to be, the city I live in will be 40 million people in 20 years. It's going to be the third biggest city in the world. Nigeria is going to be 400 million people. The reality is that how do we solve some of these problems? And my view, it's, a lot of the problems are driven by culture. The resolution sometimes will be around education, maybe not sometimes, all the time. A significant investment in education. It's one of the reasons why one of my more profound experiences have been around visiting schools in northern Nigeria and Kaduna, where you walk into a class and they will tell you that when the students started, the class was 50-50 male-female. You suddenly get to 12-year-olds and the class is 30% the girls and 70% the boys. The girls have been taken out of school either to work or to get married at 12. Now, those cultural imperatives are some of the things that are holding us back on the continent. And I typically say to people, it makes no sense for us to go out to the Western world and look for people to solve our problems. How many champions do we see within those cultures, that women that have escaped, women that have escaped these problems? How many of them do we see going back to say, this is totally untenable, in such a way that we will be able to stop these problems? At the same time, Nigeria is largest number of children out of school, 15 million. That makes no sense. Because when children are out of school, gender-based violence is definitely at the top of the issues that we have to deal with. So one of my things is about how I talk to philanthropists all over the world and organizations, and they say to me, oh, we do advocacy. And I say, but in Africa, advocacy doesn't cut it. We have to get our hands dirty. Talking about an issue, you can do that in the Western world. Most issues just need you to push the envelope. In Africa, it needs you to get your hands dirty. It needs you to build infrastructure. It needs you to invest in local communities. It needs you to send right positive imaging. It needs all of us focusing on these things. So, and you know, unfortunately, it also is about the economies. In situations where economies, again, I use Nigeria as my classic example. Inflation is at 20%. Population growth is a real problem. So what you then have is that as hard as people work, actually they're taking home less and less every day, because commodity prices are, today, even where commodity prices are high, the people at the bottom of the pyramid get no benefit from high commodity prices, because they are essentially the farmers that produce goods or mine in the mines, but they don't see the benefits of the high prices. So I think it's important that we recognize that, yes, we will deal with gender-based violence, but we do need to create wealth. And we do need to educate our people so that they know different, so that actually they vote different. They don't vote ethnicity or religion, they actually vote competence when it's time for elections. So there are lots of different ways, but all of it will lead us to a situation where we will be able to make the changes that are required of our societies.
Thank you so much. Emery, access for young people.
Raisa, I want to tell you that you made the right choice already by coming in this conference. Some of your friends, yes, let's please clap for her. Some of your colleagues are probably having fun in a bar somewhere at this time. So it's about being on a high alert mode in learning, equipping yourself, making sure that you tap into the opportunities that are available by first learning. Be like a sponge to go and get access to information. Make sure that you are top-notch in terms of knowing exactly the path you need to take for you to be who you want to be in 5 years. But you have to start thinking of it now. And I think by coming here is already a good starting point. And being at Africa Leadership University, I want to commend your school because it's a school where you are taught to solve problems. You're not just going to school to grasp every syllabus and books and go and repeat them. Fred Swanike and partners made a wonderful curricula for you to be entrepreneurial driven. So be strategic in your thinking, read a lot, make sure you mingle with the right people, like the people here in the room. Make sure when you go back, look into all the names who were talking at this conference. Make sure you connect with them on LinkedIn. Read what they say. Read all the opportunities that they share. Make sure that tomorrow you are one of the panelists here. And teach other youngsters. So the ball is in your court. You have plenty of opportunities, much more opportunities than we had when we were young. And my elders here, you can thrive. You can be one of the Masiiwas and the Dangote of the Forbes magazine list in 10 or 15 years. But it takes a lot of hard work. It is not because you are a young, beautiful, intelligent lady. It is not enough. It takes a lot of hard work. It needs you to go out there, get your hands dirty, day and night, read, work, inform yourself, and just be a problem solver like you are taught at ALU. And I'm sure I can guarantee you, you will be a success for this, for your generation, but you will also have the responsibility of building many more afterwards.
Thank you.
And if we can add something, my dear panelists, is that whatever you fight for, fight to change the law accordingly. Because when you go, something has to stay for the next generation.
Yeah.
And everything is in the law because they have to go to parliament to change it or to do a coup. It's difficult.
And I guess that, takes us where we began yesterday about the role of policy. I'm watching our time and it is fast spent. My apologies that I will not come back to the audience. Rather, I'll go up to my panel. What is your last call to action for male financial champions? If they were sitting here, the room full of them, what would be your one word to them?
So I think that we should put key performance indicators. There's certainly a global, let's say a continental assembly of businessmen. Go there, discuss, and put key performance indicators they come to report every year.
Okay.
What change have you made?
Yeah, yeah.
How many women have you recruited? How many women have you promoted? What policy have you changed? What strategies have you taken? And work on that and make it happen. I think, and report on that every year, so it will create that movement.
Thank you.
In this sphere of finance.
Thank you so much.
I didn't want us to go away with the impression that you have to be a Dangote or Masiiwa to impact.
Yep.
I think that's a wrong message. My view of life is that development in our continent is community-led, community-driven. People know what they want, and they don't want us to preach to them. Again, I make the point, what do we do well at APF? We don't teach philanthropy. I think philanthropy is us. It's in our culture. It's in our blood. We do it all the time. The problem we have on the continent is that we're not strategic about it. So that's what APF brings to the table. What we're trying to say is, look, instead of giving to everybody that asks you, why don't you focus your attention on one thing that you're passionate about? If it's education, if it's healthcare, if it's a girl child, please do it and do it well. And it doesn't matter how much it is. And you don't have to have a foundation to do it. Just do it, walk the talk, deliver the results, and the successes you will see in the communities around you. And let's do less of letting culture get in our way. Let's be the change that all of us talk about.
Yeah. Thank you. Emery, finally.
I would like to challenge my elder brother here as a board member of African Philanthropy Forum. Ask if we can have Africa Philanthropy Forum talk to African Union and talk to different governments. The reason why we have a lot of philanthropies in the US, it's not because they have the heart to give more than we have in the corporate world in Africa. It's because there are some tax incentives that are enabling this type of arrangements. And as a business person, I can tell you and as a business person, we care about bottom line, okay? But if we are enabled at a tax, with a specific tax regime that will enhance the heart that I already have, okay? Let's make it clear. I will probably give more. So the ball is in Africa Philanthropy Forum advocacy, like we were saying, to go and knock at different specific doors to enable our governments in Africa to have tax regimes that encourage or amplify the philanthropy heart that business people might have.
Okay, thank you. A very big round of applause for my panel, Agnes, Benga, Emery. Thank you so much for this conversation. And it gives me great pleasure to welcome on stage the moderator of the next panel, Professor Moyo, who is the director